Hello everyone, welcome to Helix Plays Games. My name is Richie, and joining me this week is at CyberChris2077, Mr. Chris.
Hello everyone, hope you're good in gaming.
No Rob this week because he's still busy away with his current house move, but we do have a great show lined up for you, where we'll be talking about the PlayStation Showcase, Final Fantasy 16, and an update on Ubisoft's Star Wars game. All that and much, much more on this week's XPass. Before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, you like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications turned on so you're kept in the loop with all of our great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as Talking the PS, where tomorrow we break down everything that happened at the PlayStation Showcase, apart from the stuff that we're going to talk about now. Our Amazon Luna show, which comes out the first Wednesday of every month, Luna Listening. And our live streams, such as when we streamed the PlayStation Showcase last Wednesday, and whatever me and Robert decide to do this week, I haven't, at the time of recording, we haven't discussed. Chris is at a wedding, so we'll let you know in the coming days. We also have a Discord, link is in the description below. But before we get into it, Chris, been playing anything interesting?
No, I was away in Munich getting very, very drunk on amazing German beer and Jägermeister, so upon my recovery, I've dabbled a little bit in Jedi Survivor. I'm doing just my mop-up, clean-up run-through at the moment. So yeah, I'm just chipping away, still thoroughly enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying now the story's out the way, just exploring the world and just kind of finding all those little secret pockets. And the map's still a little bit frustrating. Like the first game, they've not really refined that, even with the fast travel. There's still hidden pockets that I can't quite figure out how to get to yet.
Isn't that part of the point, though? It's like, it's more like, oh, how do I get to there? They have to figure it out.
Yeah, but it's not like a fun trying to figure it out. It's more of just the map's clunky and awkward and I can't quite see the path that I need to take rather than solve a puzzle to get there. But the game's still fun. I'm checking out my different stances now, which I know Rob was surprised when I did just the basic, boring Jedi stance. So now I'm trying to explore all the other ones. But yeah, game's great. Having fun. Enjoyed the story thoroughly. And I'm kind of ready to move on to my next thing after this. So thankfully, we've got tons of games to talk about.
Indeed. For me, it's just chipping away Tears of the Kingdom, which I expect will be happening for quite a while to come, because that game is huge. It almost feels like I'm still scratching the surface, and I don't know how many hours I've put in. I don't even want to look. But, yeah, so let's actually just move very quickly into the
excellently prepared Xbox expose, aka the news.
The news. And as always, our news section is brought to you by our Helix heroes, such as Jack the Slip, who happily rejoined. You can too, as well, for as little as 99p over on youtube.com/Helix Plays Games.
And we appreciate it.
We do very much. It helps keep the lights on. It helps keep us motivated to keep making you awesome content. So thank you very much for all of your support. First news item on our Xbox podcast, PlayStation Showcase. So, Chris, question I want to put out to you before, because we've talked a bit about how PlayStation feels like it's being piling the pressure on the Xbox at the moment. Mm-hmm. How do you think this PlayStation Showcase did in terms of the pressure Xbox is currently under?
Yeah, I know Hjorvar wrote in our Discord with a couple of questions specific to the showcase and what it means and the games, and is it fair that Xbox have been criticised so much? Our reflection upon the showcase was it was missing a lot of the big hitters. A lot of the PlayStation First Buy was shown off, but it was more the newer studios that are making the first game ever, so the confidence in it being a great game is quite thin on the ground. A lot of it was CGI, and similar kind of criticisms that Xbox have came under for, like, where are the games? Where are these great games that were invested in these consoles and platforms to play? I don't think it puts any more pressure on Xbox. We have an Xbox showcase, obviously, next month. I'm looking forward to it. I'm waiting to see what all the 20-plus Microsoft studios are working on. And yeah, if anything, I think the lack of maybe first-party stuff gave Xbox a bit of a window. I'd be very curious, because I was reading some stuff. I think it was Tom Warren and a couple of other journalists out there have actually said there was stuff that they've seen that wasn't shown off at the showcase, suggesting that PlayStation may have pulled some material, whether that was for streamlining purposes or maybe they've just assessed the lay of the land and thought, you know what, we can hold these back. And I know for all its criticisms, we did say, because we haven't seen anything, that doesn't mean they're not ready. So, if anything, all the stuff we didn't see just means we get to see it at some point in the future, because the dam has to break at some point. Similar for Xbox. All these studios they acquired and they've been holding back, at some point, even though it feels like an eternity when they say things have got delayed and stuff's been pushed back, at some point, that dam will break and we'll get a flood of these amazing games. So, Showcase, Xbox Showcase, Starfield Direct immediately after. The pressure was already on ahead of time. I actually think PlayStation almost fumbling the ball a little bit has eased the pressure on Microsoft to a degree. And the fact that a lot of games were shown off there are also multi-platform, Microsoft had a great opportunity to just remind everyone that we're getting them too. So maybe don't be too sad.
Yeah, I know we talk about it tomorrow and talking the PS, but I think we both came to an agreement where it wasn't a bad showcase, it was a bad PlayStation showcase.
Yeah. Arguably, it was a good Xbox showcase, because you saw like 7 or 8 games that are coming to Xbox and they all look great.
That was going to be my point that I was going to build to, actually, where I think the showcase itself, you can kind of almost split into 3 segments. There is the Games as a Service PlayStation segment, there's the PSVR 2 segment, and there's a third-party segment. That wasn't how it was structured, they're all interweaved. But every game that we saw kind of fell into one of them 3 camps. And as someone who isn't a Games as a Service player and currently has only a passing interest in VR, as cool as I think it is, I just don't think it's anywhere near worth the price at the moment. That meant the heavy lifting for me in terms of the games I want to play was done in the third party segment, in which case most of them were then revealed after the showcase to also be coming to Xbox.
Absolutely.
So I kind of think Xbox came out looking a bit better than PlayStation for me. Although that's probably unfair. It's just more of I was more disappointed in Sony not showing the stuff I really wanted to see. What Naughty Dog working on, what Insomniac working on, what a Sucker Punch working on, etc., etc. But there's some cool games fell out of this.
There really is, and there's also that added caveat of you got to imagine a third of these, if not half, are probably going to be Game Pass games.
Some of them, definitely.
Like just the way Microsoft seem to negotiate, they always kind of have a couple every month that you've got one tentpole, a couple more sprinkled in, and then they do really, really good. If you look back at the last year, they've done really well to get top quality third-party titles day one on Game Pass. If we think back to like Outriders, we had Atomic Heart recently, we had High on Life. They've done really, really well to get those kind of really top quality games in day one for free, in and amongst what should be their own first-party studios. So again, talking about the dam breaking, it's already kind of leaking through with games of like decent quality, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see something like what we're going to talk about, Ghost Runners 2, maybe even Alan Wake coming to Game Pass day one. So
I'll tell you what we'll do is I'll go through the list of games that we saw at the PlayStation Showcase that are confirmed to come to Xbox, and then we can just pick and choose which ones we want to go through. So the list is the Talos Principle 2 comes out in 2023, Ghost Runner 2, 2023, Immortals of Avium, July the 20th, 2023, Never, 2024, Cat Quest, Pirates of the Caribbean, 2024, Teardown, 2023, The Plucky Squire, 2023, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. No date on that yet. Alan Wake 2, October 17th, 2023. Assassin's Creed Mirage, October the 12th, 2023. Dragon's Dogma, no date yet. And Marathon. Where would you like to start?
I think the ones that we didn't talk about, that we don't talk about tomorrow on Talking the PS, obviously we went into the PlayStation exclusives, quite a lot of detail, and then there was a lot of third-party ones we skipped over. I'm going to go with the ones that I'm most interested in. For me, Assassin's Creed Mirage is was one of my standout ones at the showcase because I'm such a big Assassin's Creed fan. We knew it was always going to come to Xbox. Very surprising that this wasn't. I'm sure we'll see more at the Ubisoft Forward, but it was very odd to have Assassin's Creed rock up in the middle of a PlayStation-centric showcase. It wasn't really needed. It was there anyway.
I don't think anyone was expecting us to be there.
No, it was there anyway. It showed off a great trailer with gameplay. and it just really again lit a fire under me of I can't wait for this. They said they're going back to their roots. It's set in Baghdad. You've played as Basim. It looked colourful. It looked great. He's rocking Altair's white hood. It looked, if anything, if you told me it was a trailer for the remake of the first game, I would probably just believe you, which has me excited. We know we're getting the feudal Japanese one in maybe next year or the year after. I can hold out for that. Give me this to tide me over in the meantime. It looks great.
I think, as much as I prefer the setting of feudal Japan, I think this might be the better game for me. Because they have kind of already announced that Assassin's Creed Red is an open world. Yep. I'm expecting it to be pretty much the sequel to Valhalla, to Odyssey, to Origins. Yeah. Where I think I've always felt the Assassin's Creed games are great when the narrative's doing the heavy lifting. But when you just get to the general open world, go explore this world, it's always just stuff on a map. Yeah. And I think most of the content is kind of bland. Where Mirage, we know it's a smaller title. It's more focused in the old style in terms of this is a stealth action game rather than a RPG, open world action RPG that you can also stealth in. It almost feels like sometimes I've also they're trying to do too many different genres and everything kind of falls just very generic. So this could be I'm expecting this to be my favourite Assassin's Creed game of all time. Yeah. I really hope they nail it.
Me too. It's an interesting take of what they're doing because with Assassin's Creed Hex as well, it seems like we're going to get maybe like a more horror vibe. And I could see, well, last week actually, or the week before, we reported on Ubisoft. It was you and Rob reported on doubling down on Assassin's Creed being their key franchise. And no surprise, Valhalla made over $1 billion. So although all the other Ubisoft games are struggling massively, shout out to Soul and Bones, this is still the franchise that brings in the big bucks, and the fact that if they're able to diverge this, so they have their big, massive open-world Witcher-esque game, that makes over $1 billion, like Valhalla, then you've got your smaller interstitial titles which are story-focused and stealth-focused in between, little slightly cheaper price point, little bit shorter game, they're like your Uncharted Lost Legacies of the world, they bring a bit of money in, and then if they've got like this Hex branch, which is potentially leading into like Resident Evil horror, I'll take some like Resident Evil style Assassin's Creed because they've leaned into mythology so heavily in the last couple of games. Give me something freaky and geeky and I'm down for it. So Assassin's Creed it's not just about assassins and Templars anymore, and it hasn't been for about a decade plus. I think it looks great. The game looked great. It's coming out later this year, and I'm excited for it. How about you, Richie? Sorry.
Yeah, with Hex, what I don't want them to do is just put a horror skin over the top of like an open world Assassin's Creed game. I think even the open world games, you know how they kind of reinvented the formula with Odyssey? Yeah. I think they need to reinvent the formula again. Me too. Because I think everything they've done with Odyssey, now if you think of like, if you close your eyes and think of the default, put all the tropes of an open world action RPG, you've basically got Assassin's Creed in its current guise. And I think that's why sometimes it falls a bit flat, because it's almost a victim of its own success. Because everyone's copied it. All the things that it revolutionised are now just standard things, and it's no longer pushing the genre forward. With Hex, I think what they need to do is they need to focus on this being a survival horror iteration of an Assassin's Creed. Yeah. Rather than just a horror skin.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Like Mirage, they're going to focus this as more of a stealth action. This is where I think they can get the benefit out of the IP, where these need to be Assassin's Creed games, but sure you can do more and do a bit more focused with your IP. Indeed. As well as doing your big open world stuff.
So what was there for you then, aside from Assassin's Creed, that stood out?
I think the biggest one was Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
But it's to be fair, in a showcase that has Metal Gear Solid 3, a remake of it, Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, it's hard for anything else to top that. Apart from, which is not, I don't think it's confirmed yet for Xbox, the remasters of Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3, which are also coming.
Well, they are already technically playable on Xbox thanks to backwards compatibility, if I'm not mistaken. Like, you can actually play them right now if you had them purchased beforehand with Twin Snakes or whatever version it was previously. So that might be why there's not been that push. But they seem like perfect titles to just drop in. Like GoldenEye. Like, give us a retro title that's existed for years. It has the masses, and you probably find a lot of older gamers just go, oh, you know what? It's there. I'll check it out again.
That'd be actually a bit of a pro move that could help Xbox out quite a bit now. If, like, hey, PlayStation announced they're going to bring out bring Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 to PS5, and Xbox Phil Spencer goes, "Hold my beer, we're bringing them the Game Pass."
Mm-hmm.
Balls are back in your court, Sony.
I mean, Konami are going to take the money for that kind of deal, aren't they? But yeah, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, cannot wait for it. We didn't see much of it, but at the same time,
it's a reveal. It's a few years out, probably. I
can't wait though.
Late next year or even into 2025 for that.
It's also branded as green, so it's perfect for Xbox to partner with it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Ghost Runner 2.
Quick turnaround for Ghost Runner. I was very surprised to see it. It had those vibes of it. It looked like it was going to be Destiny content because of the nature of it. But yeah, protagonist Jack, he's back with a motorbike this time. I never played the original Ghost Runner, but I know a lot of people love the kind of frenetic first-person traversal and the kinetic energy of jumping around, wall running and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, really good reviews, and now it's back with a motorbike. Yeah,
I mean, my only downside is, same with you, it's first-person. And I've kind of burnt out a bit on first person. I'm not against it, but it's like, I want to see more. But the shot in the trailer where he's like driving down this massive building. It's like, if it's a case of, that is kind of the world you're in. You're driving down this massive building and you can drive all the way to the bottom. And that's not just a cutscene, that is the world.
Yeah.
It is like in that scale. It's like, because you're on a motorbike, it's going to be fast as well. It's like, there could be something really cool as well. Especially if they keep it kind of tight, keep the narrative tight, keep the game small. I have this thing at the moment where I think there's been an obsession in the past with open world games where it's all about make it bigger, make it bigger, make it bigger, make it bigger. Mm-hmm. Where I think they need to go the other way, because the bigger you make your map, the harder it is to fill it with interesting content without that content becoming boring and repetitive. Sometimes condensing it can be better if the game is good enough.
Yeah, well, this had a very Doom 2016 vibe. Where I was like, you had to keep moving, and like you just basically don't stop. And like now adding in a motorcycle and extra gadgets, I'm sure it takes place a year after the events of the first game. So yeah, if you're into just like fast first person, like think like Mirror's Edge from EA maybe, with a bit of cyberpunk flung in there for good measure, you're pretty much talking Ghost Runner. And yeah, I feel like this could be a game that we might see show up on Game Pass as well. It's like that. Yeah. AA pushing AAA barrier that's well received, well loved. Get it on there.
Let's talk about Alan Wake. Alan Wake 2. We got some gameplay.
We did, yeah. And for me, gameplay looked fantastic. It reminded me a lot of Resident Evil. And I've said time and time again, I'm in this weird place where I want to play through Resident Evil 2, possibly with you and some kind of Let's Play series, then 3, then 4. And I found out recently, obviously we'll talk about it on the Luna Listening podcast, that it's actually leaving Amazon Luna in about a week's time. So I'm not going to have the time as an adult with a newborn child to actually even get around to it anymore. So I'm going to have to rethink that approach. And then here's Alan Wake rocking up with some gameplay that looks like Resident Evil-esque. And looks beautiful, looks great. I'm a big fan of Remedy. Control is one of my favourite games of the last few years. I can't wait for Control 2. But in the meantime, Alan Wake Remastered is now out, so I might be tempted to go back to that based on what I've seen in the Alan Wake 2 trailer. How about you? Does it tickle any of your fancies?
I'm not a survival horror guy. I like them from a distance. Mm-hmm. If I was, I'd be very interested in this. If you're a fan of like Resident Evil 4, this feels like it would be very much up your alley. It's like, I think maybe we get put off by the Alan Wake series a bit just because of the name. It just sounds like a block.
It is.
But then when you look at the trailer and go, you know what? If you're into horror, there's some really creepy stuff going on there.
Yeah. Did you notice?
I think this could be a very Rob game.
Oh, absolutely. Did you notice Max Payne rock up in the trailer as well? I mean, not actually Max Payne. It's Sam Lake, the guy who does the face for Max Payne. Which is weird to see. We should
play the Max Payne game, so
I did back in the PS2 days. But it was interesting. Yeah, they used his likeness for the character of Max Payne, and then he actually works at the company. He's not like a voice actor person necessarily. He's in it, but then at the same time, Remedy are remaking Max Payne Remastered in partnership with 2K, I believe we confirmed a few months back. So there's an interesting like full circle thing going on here where, Alan Wake Remastered, I actually had it pre-ordered and then I didn't end up going through with it. I think other games came out. I will say, though, one thing that stood out for me with the Alan Wake announcement, which is quite frustrating as someone who collects physical games still, is they've confirmed Remedy have confirmed it's only going digital only to keep the price down. So you cannot buy Alan Wake 2 physical. I
think I might have seen, might have been, it's not in the show notes, so don't take this as gospel. I'm sure I saw like the Embracer offering to do a physical version of it or something.
Right.
I think it was just one of them things you just scroll past on Twitter and just, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a single-player psychological survival horror experience, so pretty much echoes what Resident Evil is. And yeah, not having a physical version kind of irked me a little bit. I saw one of the UK journalists point, I think it might have been Sammy Barker from Push Square, saying that they said they wanted to keep it digital to keep the cost down and make the game a bit more profitable naturally. But then at the same time, they tweeted out that some of the responses, the sales from Europe, I think it was, and it's that in the UK, I think Jedi Survivor, 60% of its sales were physical. Yeah. And I think recently, basically every big title that's came out has had like a really good boon in physical sales. So it seems odd that they would just leave that on the table and miss out on it, but it's just the world we live in, I guess.
I think physical sales does two things. One, it's there. So when you walk into a shop, sometimes you'll be walking to Tesco's to do your grocery shopping or Asda, and then they'll have the stand with the new big game right in front of you. Mm-hmm. So it's there. It's marketing in a way because you're getting exposed to it. And if you're not following on games media like we do, the only time you see it might be on a YouTube ad or when you're in a shop. Mm. And I think there's a lot of people still conditioned to just buy games physically. And then there's also the reason why I tend to buy physical games. And it's not because, well, if they pull the game, you still have it. For me, it's a cost thing. You can often get, like, I think I've seen Breath of the Tears of the Kingdom for like 65 quid digital.
Yeah.
I got it for 50 physical.
Yeah.
So why would I spend more money?
Yeah. I found it now. It was Shinobi 602. Jedi Survivor, 45% of the sales were physical. Dead Space Remake sold comfortably better in physical versus digital. And Resident Evil 4 was about 50-50. But essentially that's like half of your potential market you're leaving on the table. 45% physical still, which it's an odd market to just like abandon.
I think it is a bit of a brave move. You could say, you can maybe look at Alan Wake and go, this is a premium franchise, well respected. But I think it's not like a God of War. If God of War Ragnarok was digital only, that's not really going to affect their sales. Mm-hmm. This could, I think, with Alan Wake. I'm not sure if Alan Wake is as strong enough without that physical presence. As I said, the more casual gamers going, I love the last one, Alan Wake 2. So, I'll chuck it in the trolley. Stuff. Yeah, I think it's sometimes like getting out of the mindset of like the hardcore gamers, because most games are bought by non-hardcore gamers.
Yeah, it puts me off buying it personally, but I just wish it wasn't
doesn't move
called.
The needle either way for me. Like,
I do think if it wasn't called Alan Wake, it would sell a lot more.
Yeah,
even just call it Wake too.
Yeah, Alan,
like Quake, but Wake.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't just call it Alan.
Just Alan. And then the second game's Alan.
Alan squared.
Immortals of Avium is a single-player first-person magic shooter where you master 3 colours of magic and unleash spells with deadly skill in a game that defies FPS conventions. So, Doom with magic, by the looks of this game. Almost, I think, didn't you like it's like Ghostwire Tokyo meets Doom?
Yeah, it looked like that. The kind of frenetic nature of it and the magic and the fact that it was first person made it stand out massively in the trailer. Like it did just look like that gameplay. I think interestingly enough, the developers of this game, it's from what I was reading and what I was looking into, is they've got quite a good history. I think a lot of them are ex-Call of Duty devs. So they've got that kind of like quick gameplay. Although they're not using guns, obviously, in this one, it's more magic.
But it's a gun. Yeah, you've 10 years.
Yeah.
A gun.
Yeah, it's that legacy, and you can almost see that reflected in some of the movement and the fighting. It's EA doing one of those EA original pairings, similar to what we had recently with Wild Hearts. It's them branching out and doing something differently, and it's served them well in the past with the likes of It Takes Two developer as well. Not one for me. I wasn't that fussed on Ghostwire Tokyo either. Again, I'm just not that much of a first person, especially without guns. When you just see arms moving around, it looks fun. Looks good. I'd be curious to see. Yeah, again, your first look at Ghostwire made me more intrigued than the trailers actually did. So I need to see a little bit more of it. Some of the characters look a bit generic for me, and I think in a world of Destiny and stuff where we see so much sci-fi based things, it didn't do enough to distinctify itself, if that's a word. Distinctify.
I have this thing with sci-fi and fantasy. As much as I love them, I think it's very difficult to do it well. It's very difficult to because there's so much out there in the genres.
Yeah,
it's so hard to make it feel unique and interesting, and not just it's another sci-fi game, it's another fantasy game. And again, like this, I think this is one of them games where I look at it and go, you know what? If this comes to Game Pass, I'll do a first look at it, and like Ghostwire Tokyo, I'll have a great time, but it's probably not going to grip me. But again, in a different era, 10 years ago, I think I'd be all about this.
Yeah, there's part of me which, again, it's similar to what a lot of the stuff we say is I would enjoy it, no doubt, but there's nothing that would keep me going back.
I'd enjoy it, but I don't think I'd enjoy it enough to keep me going back, like stuff like Tears of the Kingdom, like Hogwarts Legacy, like Octopath have this year.
Yeah.
It'd be like, yeah, it's good, it's a good game, and if I didn't have other stuff I'd rather be playing, I'd put more time into it. Yeah. But I do have other stuff I'd rather be playing.
Yeah, could be good. Hopefully, it does well for EA.
Yeah, let's talk about something completely different. And never, I'm not sure. Never chronicles the story of Alba, a young woman bound to a curious wolf cub following a traumatic encounter with dark forces. Together, they embark on a perilous journey through a once beautiful world as it slowly decays around them. This got me in the feels.
Yeah, it's big giant direwolf dog fights off evil shadows and does some dog whimpers and gets injured in the process. And this reminded me of a lot of those like indie games where they use like a little bit of subtle piano music, some cute looking characters to tell an emotive story. And it looks like obviously Greece was well received for that, very similar themes, and they've took everything they've learned from that and applied it to some cute little wolf creatures. Art style looks gorgeous, gameplay looked great. Took me out of the showcase a little bit at the time because of kind of everything we've seen, and then we pivoted towards this like different art style and mood completely. And like you said, it got you in the feels. It's like, I don't come to a PlayStation showcase to be traumatized by emotional animals.
Yeah, but I liked it.
But it looked cool. It was cool.
Pace. Especially when you've looked at some of the stuff we've already talked about on this show, like we've talked about, first-person shooter, Metal Gear Solid, horror game in Alan Wake, Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's just something a bit different, and I like that diversity. It's good.
It worked. Again, beyond Lost Words. It had that kind of similar feeling where it's maybe a slower paced story, but it'll still get you when it counts.
Lost Words is a great game. Full playthrough on the channel.
There is indeed.
So, is there any others that you want to jump into before we move to the next major story?
Not really. I think Teardown looked quite fun. That was the kind of Minecraft meets GTA. You break in, heist, steal, blow through the walls, plan an escape. That looked fun, but more so for like a live stream for one night than actually playing myself.
Yeah, it's like Teardown was like, what if Minecraft was a heist game but set in like a modern setting? But it's kind of straight up Minecraft graphics. Different colour palette, but still that very blocky nature, and like
and the Plucky Squire, which I think I actually said about 2 weeks ago on the show, you hadn't heard of it before, and I described it to you, and it was like, oh yeah, actually it's that jump off a comic book cartoon page into the 3D world, and it's a 3D platformer. Like you said, it was like Zelda.
Yeah, I was making the joke because it has this thing where you can switch between 2D and 3D when you go into the walls and stuff, like Link Between Worlds did, like. Mm-hmm. Those sections of Mario Odyssey is done. Yeah. But yeah, it looks cool.
And the only other one, I guess, is arguably the biggest game of all of them is Marathon, coming from Bungie, but we talk about that quite in depth tomorrow. But it is interesting to think it's PlayStation owned. It could have been a PlayStation exclusive, and as Bungie said, by remaining independent of PlayStation when they were acquired, was the fact that they wanted cross-platform, cross-save, cross-play on everything. And it's great to see Marathon also coming to Xbox, because I think it Destiny has a big home on Xbox as well, and I think there's going to be a good transition across to there. So interested to see more of Marathon and what that partnership maybe looks like with Xbox going forward.
Indeed. So let's actually move on to our next big story of the week. And I think it was last week or maybe the week before, we covered Xbox bringing the first round of games to GeForce Now.
Mm-hmm.
They've just done the same to Boosteroid. And now my question for you, Chris, is has Microsoft officially just legitimized Boosteroid?
So Boosteroid, for those who don't know, it's essentially the same thing. It's a computer in the clouds, isn't it? You have access.
It's a cloud gaming service. It's basically an independent cloud gaming service.
Yeah, on their Twitter account, it's a weak computer isn't a problem with Boosteroid, is essentially their mantra. We've kind of circled around them, covering cloud gaming for quite some time. It's similar to GeForce Now. It's not really our bag, because it's more of a utility service than an actual platform in itself. And
Boosteroid, I think, is actually a platform in its own self, but one of the reasons we've shied away from it is there's a lot of stuff we've heard behind the scenes where they don't necessarily have the licenses to publish the games because they're a streamed PC service, and we saw with early days in GeForce Now that led to companies just giving a cease and desist and pulling games. So we've kind of just been watching it from the sidelines, but now Microsoft are bringing Game Pass stuff over.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry, it's not more of a utility. It is very much beta in the cloud. They do let you pay annually for it, which is I do appreciate. That was one of the things we always begrudged Stadia, of let me pay for Stadia Pro once a year with a little bit of a discount. No contracts, just lock yourself in, play games. They've got obviously loads of partners with people, and they're getting bigger. Looking at Twitter, they've got 5,500 followers, so still very, very small in terms of just social media footprint, which gives you a good indication of the size of the company in its own right. But yeah, Xbox, again, this is probably part of the CMA ruling, that they just wanted to partner with as many cloud people to dissuade the thought process of, we're not happy to work with cloud people. It's look, we've went and made deals with everybody. It's but Boosteroid, did they count for anything?
They made these 10-year deals to sweeten the CMA to get the ABK deal through, and now they're delivering on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is great. But yeah, it's great for Boosteroid. Could you imagine being head of Boosteroid marketing or something, and then Microsoft willingly come to you and make a deal and then promote your service in their blog? That's better than 5,500 followers on Twitter is ever going to do.
That's kind of what I mean by have them being legitimised. Microsoft has just kind of give the thumbs up to Boosteroid's existence, where before it was who are these guys? What they're doing? They seem like they're doing some interesting stuff. Did they have the backing, with something like Stadia and Luna, had the backing of Google and Amazon to okay, you can see them potentially. It didn't work for Stadia, but you could see how they might be able to disrupt the industry. Is Boosteroid just going to be just this kind of little indie thing? And Microsoft kind of went, yeah, we like you guys.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of them out there, isn't there? So it's interesting to see what they're going to look like going forward, and it does legitimise them because there's literally a Microsoft blog, and the Xbox games are not going to be pulled from Boosteroid because they've been given to them under the blessing of Microsoft. It's
literally contractual obligation.
100%. So yeah, it looks good. What are the other ones out there? There's Shadow.
This Shadow is not necessarily a gaming service. It is actually just a PC in the cloud service that does gaming. I think they sell it a bit in the gaming thing, but it's not just a gaming thing. There's Ubisoft, Enware, Blacknut. There's loads of different stuff, different companies developing this sort of tech.
Yeah, we legitimise Blacknut because they follow us and we follow them. Friends. But yeah, aside from that, I think it's just the start of probably Microsoft still just ironing out that, look, we're cool with cloud gaming. Anyone, we could start a cloud gaming service, and I feel like Microsoft would probably want to work with us at some point just to keep the CMA happy. They don't want to stifle cloud gaming.
And the thing is, this still means that if you're using Boosteroid, now you get access to Game Pass games. You're still paying for Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is still getting the money, so if Microsoft's business model is focused more on the games as a service Not in terms of in an individual game, but as a
Yeah.
gaming hobby as a service,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
what Game Pass is. This is a win, really, for them, because
Oh,
just
100%.
helping you get your stuff in more places.
100%.
Gollum.
Smeagol?
Shall we talk?
That's an odd transition. You're just going to
Gollum,
say Gollum out loud.
Yeah, Gollum. Just let it sit. Like, reviews, Chris. Have you read any of them?
So to start off with, before we get into the review roundup of Gollum, we're both massive Lord of the Rings fans, and
Indeed.
for those who don't recall, Gollum was the first next-gen game announced, like only next-gen, PS5, Xbox Series X, before the consoles even launched. Then it got delayed, and it was originally supposed to launch on the 1st of September last year, which was the day before the Rings of Power Amazon series happened. So when Lord of the Rings fever was at its high, Gollum was supposed to be launching from Daedalic Games, who developed the game. It got delayed, it got pushed back, and it finally came out this week. I, being a big Lord of the Rings fan, and the last Lord of the Rings game that came out was Shadow of War, if I'm not mistaken, like proper game that I recall. So it's been a while. It's been a good minute, Richie, and I thought, you know what, as bad as this game can be, it can't be terrible, right? Because
You're expecting the 7 or something.
Yeah, I mean 6 or 7, and I played the Hobbit game back on the PS3. I played the Fellowship of the Ring game before it was given the proper licensing, and we got the amazing Two Towers and Return of the King's games. And it felt different and disconnected. And this one, it doesn't look like Andy Serkis's Gollum, doesn't have Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings attached to it. It's very much Middle-earth Enterprise has made a deal with Daedalic to make a game about Gollum. It was a stealth story narrative game where you make decisions for Smeagol and Gollum, and you sneak around, you climb up things, you distract enemies, and you see Gollum's journey between the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings and what this little bastard gets up to. And basically Daedalic took what is or should be fantastic storytelling from the wondrous work of J.R. Tolkien, and my resting statement on Richie is clearly this game should have been thrown back into the fires from whence it came. It's not doing good out there.
Yeah, so as at the time of recording, have you looked at the Metascore? Do you want to take a guess what it is? I don't know if you've seen this.
I haven't looked at it yet, no. The Metacritic
Take a guess.
score, based on how much shit it's getting, I'd guess around 35.
Oof, 36.
Oh, that was a good guess.
That's a really good guess. And user score, 1.5.
Oh, really? 1.5?
So it's almost got an anti-review bomb situation going on a bit, which is actually pulling the user score up slightly.
Well, it's that bad it's good?
Yeah, well, no, there's a few people, because people like giving it 2s and 3s and stuff. I'm guessing there's a lot of 0s. There's a few people who are giving it 10s.
Right, okay.
Like, I'm going to read one. I'm not going to name the person because I'd never do with user score.
Yeah.
If the game was made by From Software, all of you sheeps would be praising it. So he's given a 10 out of 10 just because other people didn't like the game.
Right.
And
Seems like a fair
seemingly
review.
Likes the game. Even if Lord of the Rings Gollum isn't a fantastic video game by any means, 10 out of 10. Like, it doesn't have any game-breaking bugs, which is contrary to what I've read in some like journalist reports. In fact, I think it might have been a GameSpot report that I read where they said they couldn't finish the game because of a game-breaking bug. They literally had to release it as review incomplete because they couldn't finish the game.
Yeah. I mean, looking at some of the wider reviews, GameSpot 2 out of 10. Much like Gollum's quest for the One Ring, my quest to complete Lord of the Rings was full of endless setbacks, impossible odds, and ever-increasing levels of madness. Push Square. The Lord of the Rings Gollum is a broken mess of a game. There are barely any redeeming qualities to be found amidst what can only be described as a massive missed opportunity. Inverse 3 out of 10. It's a messy, frustrating action platformer set in Middle-earth. Most of the gameplay involves platforming and stealth, though neither work very well. Gollum is full of technical problems and otherwise an unpleasant experience. Even worse, as the game's boring story makes it hard to recommend even to the most hardcore Lord of the Rings fans. And then, the best ones. Tech Raptor, give it a 6.5 out of 10. And even their review, unfortunately, nearly every aspect of Lord of the Rings left me wanting more. Some parts of the game were thoroughly enjoyable, such as brief great moments of Gollum's torture conscience, while others were just as disappointing. Set in an inconsistent gameplay, at best, Lord of the Rings Gollum gives players a chance to see Mirkwood and Mordor like never before. So, I had this game pre-ordered from an Amazon third-party seller because it was cheaper. I saw it for $34.99 instead of $50, so I opted for the cheaper one. launch day came, game didn't show up, checked my Amazon app, and it said delivery date not set yet. So I read the reviews, I looked at some first gameplay. I actually watched Nerd of the Rings, which is one of the big YouTube channels that does Lord of the Rings I follow. He played the first, an hour or so, and I watched a little bit of that and thought, maybe I'll wait till it's significantly cheaper, because I do still want to play it as a big Lord of the Rings fan, and almost to a point, Richie, where I think we could get a good kick out of playing how bad this game is. You know, when it's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
And because we are Lord of the Rings fans, I think we could just laugh, because the voice doesn't do it justice. It's always going to be compared to Andy Serkis. Visually, the game looks like a PS3 game, which is bad to say. But you know what? We enjoy playing through Halo, so
next gen.
Yeah. Again, Daedalic, I don't know what they've made before, but evidently this isn't it. Worrying enough, though, I think we have it in the news doc that the report is also that this team have got a government grant to actually work on multiple Lord of the Rings titles. So this might not be the last Lord of the Rings game you see from this studio. The German government funded 2 Lord of the Rings titles.
2 million euros, which in gaming development terms isn't a huge amount of money.
It's not at all. But they've still got to make something, so maybe expect The Hobbit next or something. Or what other character would you like to see them take and butcher, Richie?
Oh, God.
Should you get Azog the Defiler? His narrative story adventure? You not fancy that?
There could be something interesting told there.
The Balrog's Holiday.
Click and play adventure where you play as the Balrog.
Coming to Summers next year.
He's just chilling in the mines of Moria, and then these bloody dwarfs and goblins and
disrupt
men
his
and elves,
sleep.
And he has to fight a wizard. And he just wants to go back and just chill.
Yeah, just wants to chill on his fiery throne.
Imagine if a bunch of people started having a fight in your house. Yeah. It's just a retelling of the Mines of Moria from the perspective of the Balrog.
Yeah,
and this, slapstick comedy.
And this is where it kind of gets... It's the worrying treatment of beloved IP. And the Tolkien estate have been very protective over this IP in the past, and seemingly it's been handed along to maybe another generation, and now it's just out there for grab. Amazon have got some, Embracer have got to deal with it. We should point out, though, Gollum not from Embracer, Gollum not from WB. Yes. I saw loads of people giving it shit online, saying...
Published by Nacon.
Yeah. But I saw loads of stuff online saying, what are WB doing? First it was Gotham Knights, then it's going to be Suicide Squad, now Lord of the Rings. I'm like, whoa. WB Lord of the Rings games are top-notch. Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor are phenomenal Lord of the Rings games. This one, nothing to do with them. Yeah. Although Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights do look crap.
I think it's important to talk about the reviews on this game. It's not just I don't want to shit on them. It's like I think everyone was looking at this game going, we're not expecting this to be a 10 out of 10 absolute masterpiece. What we are expecting this is to be, I think, a 7. This is where I was kind of thinking, if this is a 7, you've done a decent job. Yeah. This is kind of a smaller title that I was expecting that to appeal to Lord of the Rings fans such as us.
Yeah.
And, a stealth-action gameplay has gone, there's something that could be there. But when you read the reviews, it's everything from things like... No one's really dwelling too much on the cosmetic aspects. It's all things like, it's the game design, it's the responsiveness, it's the
basic
bugs.
Stuff.
The story is boring. It's stuff like that where it's kind of... This is not stuff... Well, apart from bugs, this is not stuff where more time in the oven could resolve. Because... If your story's boring and your level design's boring and the gameplay is boring, what you have there is the recipe for a boring game, no matter how much effort you put in.
Yeah. I think it's just disappointing when they have such rich material to pull from, like arguably the best anthology of content ever. I mean,
maybe the problem is how restrictive they were in terms of what they could do. It might just be, you're playing as Gollum, you have to be in between these... In this era, you're not allowed to step out of it. You're not allowed to bring in stuff from other eras. You're not allowed to talk about First or Second Age. You're not allowed to talk... I don't know what the story is. And, maybe you're not allowed to talk about the Fellowship of the Ring too much. You're not allowed to talk about Sauron too... If there's all these restrictions that are on them...
I don't think they are, though, because it's not based on any other visual stuff. But either way, the devs have came out and they've apologised since. It's that bad. If I read from their tweet post. Dear players, we would like to sincerely apologise for the underwhelming experience many of you have had from The Lord of the Rings Gollum upon its release. We acknowledge and deeply regret that the game did not meet expectations we set for ourselves and for our dedicated community. Please accept our sincere apologies for any disappointment this may have caused. Our goal as a studio and as a passionate Lord of the Rings fans has been to tell compelling and immersive story-driven adventure. Crafting a story with Middle-earth as our playground has been the greatest honour and our biggest challenge we've ever faced so far. At Daedalic, we understand that the game's success relies on your enjoyment and satisfaction. We genuinely value your feedback and have been actively listening to your voices, reading your comments and analysing your constructive criticism and suggestions you've provided. Our development team has been working diligently to address the bugs and technical issues many of you have experienced. We're committed to providing you with patches that will allow you to enjoy the game to its fullest potential. Once again, we deeply apologise. We understand and appreciate that during this time. We'll continue to keep you updated on the progress. I don't think any bug patches and stuff are going to really fix it. I think this game's done and gone. Missed its window.
As I said, I don't think, from what I've read of the reviews, the problem in this game isn't necessarily the bugs.
Yeah.
Or even just like textures. It's in the core gameplay design. You can't patch your way out of a bad game.
There's a great tweet from Dolan Dark underneath that initial apology, and it's basically, thanks for that, added it to the collection, and it's the Cyberpunk one, it's the Bethesda Fallout 76, Forspoken, Jedi Survivor, Redfall, Halo Infinite, Gollum, basically all of the apologies we get when games come out too early and incomplete now, added to the list.
I think some of these, in different situations, like Forspoken and Redfall, these have got, and like Jedi Survivor, Cyberpunk, these have got massive, Halo Infinite, these have got massive studios behind them.
Yeah.
For Redfall, Microsoft could have just went, you know what, we can not release Redfall now and keep working on this game if they hadn't done the huge marketing push they did. Where with Gollum, I think Daedalic, we're probably looking at it and going, this game is nowhere near what we need to be. But we have to get some money back somehow, as crap as the situation is. Otherwise, the studio doesn't get any money?
Yeah.
You have to think with game development, the finance of it is going to be a feast and famine. When your game comes out, you get a huge spike in revenue, and then nothing till the next game, unless your game's as a service.
Yeah.
So if they don't bring out Gollum, how long can the studio hold off before they get into potentially a debt spiral? I'm just hoping that this game doesn't destroy the studio. I'm hoping that they bounce back.
We'll have to see. But it's a game that I was possibly going to be playing this weekend, and now I'm seemingly going to stay away from it maybe until it's on Game Pass or Black Friday deal or something, because I want to play it as a Lord of the Rings fan, but at the same time, my money is more important to me than playing an incomplete mess as it stands. So
Indeed.
Stick it back into the Forge and we'll maybe see it later.
But moving on to the next story, Chris, did you know that I pretty much lost Embracer a $2 billion partnership?
This you and your financial advice again, directing it out there. So what's going on with Embracer?
So last week, Rob and I talked about a Lord of the Rings MMO in partnership between Embracer and Amazon. I said I didn't trust Embracer because I don't think they've released a AAA game to the sort of standard where I think would match this IP. I think I'd want to see them prove themselves before. I also think that the MMO scene is completely saturated at the moment. So either you come out with something that is revolutionary, that draws people into MMOs away from what they're currently playing, and there already is a Lord of the Rings MMO in existence.
Yep, Lord of the Rings Online.
Or it falls away. Or then basically in a year's time after a launch, we're reading about how the game unfortunately didn't do well. They've decided to pull the servers. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Then seemingly overnight, like literally later that day, apparently they had they had a call where the $2 billion deal that struck fell through, and they released the date on the Wednesday.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Talk about last minute pulling out.
Absolutely. It's
that's rough.
I mean, I'm joking saying I'm the one who tanked it. It's just the timeline. That's it. But
yeah, well, it wasn't really you. But
that's like a $2 billion partnership. Imagine being the head of Embracer and you get that email.
I'd like to think it was a conference call rather than just an email.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. It's interesting for Embracer because we've followed them for the last few years as they slowly gobbled up IP and smaller studios and bigger studios. Remember, like they own like Gearbox now, who do Borderlands. They've gobbled up the Lord of the rights to the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, Tomb Raider, Crystal Dynamics, Square, Eidos Montreal. They've got some cracking studios under their banner, and they've put out a couple of like middling, interesting games in like the SpongeBob remakes, Destroy All Humans. They're working on Time Splitters. Dead Island 2 was their most recent actual success story. Sold 2 million copies. Reviewed really well, and that was after like a 10-year development hell. Not their fault, but it was inherently brought on by them. And we've always wondered, like, where do they make their profit? How do they keep spending this much money on acquiring things with very little seemingly output? And evidently they were ready to make another partnership deal. I'd be very interested to learn about who this was, because I think it will leak at some point. It'll get out there. I don't think you can hide something like this forever. Is that confirmed?
I'm sure. Like I was talking with Robin, talking PS last week.
Oh, this isn't the Amazon deal, though.
It's a different.
This isn't. No, yeah, this is a different deal aside from the Amazon Lord of the Rings thing.
Oh, okay.
This is just a secret deal. No one knows what it's about. It was a mega deal with a partner that's not been revealed. They had a verbal commitment back in October. It took longer than expected, and then it was just the day before. It all fell apart before the investor call, and the Embracer went to the partner and said, look, where are we at with this deal? We'd like to get the announcement locked in before the investment call. And that's when they're like, yeah, we're not doing it. And that's when the deal's collapsed in. So the Lord of the Rings one's still greenlit, good to go. This is a separate deal.
I misunderstood that then.
Which is why everything tanked, because it was
I think it's because 2 billion is... I knew there's a deal with Amazon, and 2 billion feels like Amazon sort of numbers.
Oh, absolutely. So, like, they still have Lord of the Rings, they still have Tomb Raider, they still have all the good stuff going, but it doesn't help their stock that a potential huge deal is just plummeted. If you're going to buy stocks and shares in 2 companies right now, Ubisoft and Embracer, while they're down, chips are down.
In the AAA space, Embracer, I think, has only got 1 tick at the moment, and that is Dead Island.
Yeah.
Which was actually a surprise tick, to be honest.
I
don't think many people expected it to do great.
Saints Row.
Now, they've got, Saints Row down. Things like, you can talk about things like Tomb Raider, but they haven't released a Tomb Raider game themselves.
It's a long time out, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I was like, well, what do they do? I mean, I think they'll probably bounce back. This is panic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
in worst case scenario, all the assets get strip sold to better companies. Like, the fact that Tomb Raider didn't go to a better shepherd of their franchise baffles me to this day. The fact that Lord of the Rings is with Embracer and not someone like EA, so we get a remaster of Return of the King.
Stuff like Tomb Raider I'd be reasonably confident about because of they have Crystal Dynamics. So they have that studio that kind of put Tomb Raider back on the map. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they bought the IP and then give it to a studio full of people who've not released it.
Yeah.
A game of that standard.
Saints Row people, go make a Tomb Raider game. Oh, fuck no. No, please. No, no. Yeah. Not to Tomb Raider. Lara deserves better. Yeah, I agree.
It's like, I keep looking at Embrace as like, I want, with them owning so much cool IPs, like, I want them to, like, kind of excel. Like, things like Tiny Tina's Wonderland didn't do great. It did okay. Tales of the Borderland kind of just came and went.
They didn't even market it. That's the problem. I think because they cut costs in so many other areas, we don't see the marketing push you would get from like an EA or a Ubisoft where it's everywhere. Tales from the Borderlands, I cannot believe that even came out because it came out with so little of a whimper. You'd think it was still in development right now.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it on a storefront. I haven't seen an advert for it. And like, I loved the first Telltale game. Not a sausage.
But yeah, I think this is one to just watch. I don't think 40% overnight is a huge hit. I'm hoping that it doesn't affect too much of the day-to-day operations. That I hope that they're strong enough to just kind of ride it out and just let the stock trickle back up without having to look at things like layoffs and like canning potentially awesome projects. But yeah, I want them to get up. I think Embracer have the potential to be standing up alongside as a third-party publisher, alongside Ubisoft, alongside EA, alongside Activision Blizzard at the moment. I think they have the potential to get there. They just need to get some bloody good games out.
They do, and like again, seemingly, if in 10 years' time we look back and their catalogue is new Tomb Raider game, AAA, single-player, fantastic title, Time Splitters is finally out, that's their online shooter, co-op, crazy, like hero class shooter kind of thing. Time Splitters is fantastic. Whatever the Lord of the Rings titles look like, if they get out something equivalent to Shadow of Mordor, maybe Shadow of War, that could be great. And then all of their other stuff in between could elevate them to a point where they've got stuff in rotation and cycle, just like the Ubisofts of the world do. But again, it all costs money, and they've had investment from like the Saudi public fund. I think they invested $1 billion in them last year, so they have cash coming in, and I think they own enough IP to keep them afloat. Again, I think we just need to be patient and see what the fruits of their labour do get. Embracer Group stock, it looks like it's back in the green after that dip, so it's not terrible, but that's probably where everyone just bought them while they were low.
Yeah. Quick one to continue on. Final Fantasy 16 is apparently a timed exclusive for PlayStation, a 6-month timed exclusive.
Oh, they've actually dated it.
Yep, it's apparently been dated, and apparently they looked at all options before deciding on PlayStation, including Xbox. So we could see Final Fantasy 16 come to Xbox probably as early as next year.
Didn't they say it was a time exclusive for 7 Remake, and then the year mark passed, and they've not said anything ever about it since?
Yes, I believe so.
Because that's always this is the odd relationship that Square Enix have with people. It's like they're willing to work with everyone, but then they get really particular over certain exclusivity deals and who they're talking about, like pixel remasters and whatnot. And I wish they'd just sort that out. I wish someone would just buy Square Enix just so we know what the rules are with this studio. Like, what is this company? Like, what is going on?
As a third-party publisher, they seem to prefer to do exclusivity deals, which in some ways I think is good, because I think it's probably easier to develop for one platform because it can be very laser focused.
Yeah,
which it seems might be the case here. And it also means that, well, they can sit back and go, Final Fantasy 16, who wants it? Microsoft and Sony are in the room trying to outbid each other, get a nice bag of cash, cover the development, mitigates the outlay they need in terms of development costs and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it could be a good strategy for them in terms of just keep pushing the financial liability onto Sony rather than keep it in-house. But I wouldn't be surprised if Sony went to buy them.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe with a Nintendo caveat in that they still have to put out games on Nintendo because they make a lot of money there as well. But yeah, between Embracer and Square Enix and stuff, I don't know if anyone knows what they're doing anymore. Business is business, It's so messed up.
Sony buying Square Enix could be a Bungie situation where they're acting independently, but they're owned by. So you might still get Final Fantasy games coming to other platforms, but Sony's raking in a bag of cash from it. Yeah,
absolutely. Time will tell.
Time will tell indeed. You know what time will also tell? Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game.
But that happened a long time ago.
In a far, far galaxy. Where...
in a what?
It's Ubisoft. It's got a bug.
In a far, far galaxy where you're headed here
Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game is blasting towards early 2024. So we could see it early next year. So my question to you, Chris, is, are we seeing this at Summer Games Fest?
No, I mean, do you mean the showcase or
Ubisoft
the whole...
Forward?
Yeah, the Ubisoft Forward. I think it's about time. I think Ubisoft Forward, this should be their big hitter. We know they've been struggling. I think this is going to be the showcase of licenses. I think we'll possibly see Star Wars, we'll see Avatar, and I won't be surprised if Ubisoft have partnered with another IP for, I don't know, a Predator game or Terminator or something like that, because it just seems like they're leaning into known quantities to get their stock back up as such. And I think if this is Star Wars meets The Division, I'm ready for it, and I think I just want Ubisoft to have a win. I'm in on the Avatar game. I said that. I liked the Avatar game before. I went off on it when it got delayed and took ages.
Fast pass.
And then, but then I went and enjoyed the Avatar movie, and I did really enjoy the Far Cry game. So as much as I'd rather the Avatar game was third person, I'm still down and interested for it, as long as what they show at the forward looks good. Skull and Bones is dead in the water, we know that. X-Defiant, I think, has a chance to do good, but I still think people are going to play it for 2 weeks, think it's fun and different to Call of Duty, then go back to Call of Duty and Apex and the other ones. But this Star Wars project, it's about time.
But there has been rumours that this is something different to what they've done before, anything they've done before, which gets me slightly concerned because it's the team who made The Division. And I think when we
Massive, yeah.
first heard about it, me and you both went, you put a Star Wars skin over The Division, no, it's not going to be a Jedi versus Jedi thing, but you're going to be like the Rebels versus like
Clone
the First
Troopers
Order versus Clone Troopers,
out.
stuff like that. Is like, this could be amazing.
Could you imagine playing through a story campaign, Richie, where you are a clone trooper in like the 501st Division? You're going out, you're going to Megiddo, you're going to Geonosis, you're doing all these campaigns, and then the end of the story campaign gets to a point where you're on the second to last mission, and then you get your little hologram pop up, execute Order 66, and then your whole mission and campaign pivots to, we're hunting the Jedi now. You and your mates as a team are hunting Jedi down in these locations. That would just be such a flip on the game, and then what an end. That
would be kind of so cool. Or what if you were not like some sort of like special, like not just a clone trooper, but like one of like elite like Death Trooper squads or something. And it's Order 66. That's what the game is. So you and your team, you dropped onto a planet, and your task is to find the Jedi on that planet effectively and take them down. And that is like. And then, if you think about it, that creates so many opportunities because this is going to be games of service for DLC. Because what they do is they bring out another planet and Jedi. Yeah,
liberate another planet. Go to it. We've heard rumors there's a Jedi here. We've heard rumors there's Cal Kestis on Bogano. Let's go to Bogano, kill a couple of his sympathizers, hunt a couple of rebels who are in the area down. They're your little side mission bits. But the end of the mission is to find the damn Jedi. That's right. But it might not be anything like that. I do want to point out, it's called Project Helix. Should we be filing a lawsuit against Ubisoft for this?
Yes.
Right,
absolutely.
okay.
Yes, we will totally win that lawsuit.
Get Rob, our lawyer, onto the case for that one. 2024 sounds close enough for me. It's been a while for some time. I don't want this to become a Skull and Bones or a Beyond Good and Evil. I need it sooner. In the wake of Jedi Survivor done and gone now, next year is primed for another Star Wars game.
I think early next year. To be honest, I would accept a delay to May.
May the 4th?
Yeah, that's purely for that reason. Because it's rumoured early 2024. If you pushed it in May, so it's like basically a year from now, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ubisoft Forward, and probably maybe stick a date on it.
Yeah, give it a date.
Would you accept that the Ubisoft Forward just at early 2024? So they're locking it in for the first half of the year next year.
Depending on where their other games land, yeah, I'd like to think that's going to be the big one for next spring/summer.
Yeah. What other games have gone the worst? I mean, there's Mirage, which is this year.
Skull and Bones.
Probably going to get delayed, and not expecting anything from it.
The
Avatar,
Division Heartlands, X-Defiant, the Splinter Cell game. The due another Rayman game. It's been like a decade since Rayman Legends, so it's a smaller title.
Yeah, there could be some stuff.
Oh, they're going to have to bring the heat, that's for sure, because they need to.
Yeah, they do. And Beyond Good and Evil, like, will that ever come out? Do you think that's just a meme at this point? It's not actually a game, it's just a meme.
It's a big stinking meme for Ubisoft.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, Prince of Persia, while we're talking about Ubisoft, is still in the concept phase.
Yeah, they moved it to, Ubisoft Montreal. They took it off, I forgot what the studio was called in India, who originally were taking it out. And then it brought a trailer at a Ubisoft Forward, and it just got so much shit of it looking like a PS2 game, even though it was a PS2 game.
Yeah, but it was a remake, and it looked like a remaster.
Yeah. They took it back into the concept stage. Ubisoft Pune, was moved over to Montreal, who were the original developers of the game 20 years ago. They've took it back on board. Apparently, they put out a blog post this week saying, it's still in the concept phase, which is, we're like 3 years on from that trailer now, right? If not, or the announcement at least.
This sounds like, I think what we were expecting is when Montreal took over, they were going to go take the game that would be done, work on. Obviously, we knew there was going to be significant delays, but the fact that it's in the concept stage feels like they've just looked at it and went, this isn't salvageable, chuck everything out. Yeah. Go right back to design docs.
Literally back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather they did that, because Prince of Persia is a great game, great franchise, and if you're going to do a remake or a reboot, essentially, do it its justice. Make it AAA. Make it one of your tentpole games. If you want to slap a full price tag on there, do it, but it needs to hit that value mark. It needs to showcase it is worth that £70. And obviously going back to the drawing board is their best approach. They've given it back to the home studio. They're obviously going to look at it and go, don't want to ruin our legacy. Let's sort it out. And I don't know what Ubisoft Pune are working on now, but it ain't Prince of Persia.
In some ways, I feel a bit sorry for that team because this was their kind of coming out party as a Ubisoft studio. And then Ubisoft, everyone went, what the fuck is this? And Ubisoft went, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Nope.
Let's turn the sands of time back on this decision and start again.
That's not you. Give it Montreal. Montreal like, what the fuck is this? Kill it. Scrap it. Let's start again. But yeah, I've never played Sands of Time, but I've heard really cool things, so take your time.
It's just time. It's messing with time is such a good concept for a video game.
I like the fact that they've addressed this and got just the fact that they're open and going, it is in the concept stage. It's just basically that's them basically turning around and going, don't expect this anytime soon, guys.
It ain't at the forward.
We're gonna go quiet on this probably for 2 years, I reckon.
Yeah.
I think we'll hear about this game next in 2025.
Yeah. Just before Skull and Bones is due out.
Yeah. But I think that's all we have time for this week. If you've liked the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications switched on so you kept in the loop of all of great content here, such as Lunar Listening, such as Talking to PS, such as our live stream, which we'll get back to you on what's going to be this week. Last week was our PlayStation Showcase. We've covered things like Legend of Zelda recently and all sorts of great stuff. If you want to join the conversation even further, we have a Discord server. The link is in the description below where you can actually write in with show topic ideas and questions that you want to ask us, like Hjorvar did in the last 2 weeks. Thank you, Hjorvar, for that. With that, my name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
Goodbye.
Bye.